Thomas Houston would like to welcome you to our EEO-1 Component 2 reporting webcast. With all of the activities surrounding W-2 pay and hours worked data since 2017, we have added this webcast to our EEO-1 reporting library to assist you in understanding the changes, rulings, and processes for your EEO-1 Component 2 reporting. In this webcast, we will be concentrating on the EEO-1 Component 2 reporting process to include all recent changes and to also discuss which organizations are required to file these reports, the deadline dates, and how they are to be submitted. We will also cover how they are utilized by the federal government. To give you a little background on the EEO-1 report, we will begin with what the EEO-1 report is. This report is a statistical workforce report that is submitted to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or the EEOC, on an annual basis. This report provides a count of employees by EEO-1 category and is further broken down by ethnicity, race, and gender. The EEO-1 report is utilized by the EEOC and the Office of Federal Contracts Compliance Programs, or the OFCCP. The EEOC utilizes this report data to support civil rights enforcement and to analyze employment patterns, such as the representation of female and minority workers within companies, industries, or regions. The OFCCP, on the other hand, utilizes the EEO-1 report's statistical assessment to select establishments for compliance evaluations by determining where the likelihood of systemic discrimination is the greatest. This webcast has been updated to acknowledge the change that occurred since 2017 regarding W-2 pay and hours worked data. In 2017, it was announced that the W-2 pay and hours worked data was not going to be included in the EEO-1 reports. As of this updated webcast, the W-2 pay and hours worked data is now required to be reported to the EEOC by September 30th of 2019. We will walk through the timeline regarding these recent changes to the EEO-1 reporting process in the following slides. Let's take a few minutes to review the certain rules and regulations that apply to EEO-1 reporting. The EEO-1 report is a compliance survey mandated by federal statute and regulations. The survey requires company employment data to be categorized by race, ethnicity, gender, and job category. The filing of Standard Form 100, or Component 1, is required by law. It is not voluntary. Under Section 709C of Title VII, the EEOC may compel an employer to file this form by obtaining an order from the United States District Court. Under Section 209A of Executive Order 11246, the penalties for failure by a federal contractor or subcontractor to comply may include termination of the federal government contract and debarment from future federal contracts. In this program, we will review Component 2 reporting in depth. We encourage you to visit our website to view our EEO-1 reporting webcast, where we concentrate on Component 1 reporting, as the payroll periods to collect that data are between October and December of each year. We will now walk through the timeline regarding recent changes to the EEO-1 Component 2 reporting process in the following slides. On September 29th of 2016, the EEOC released an updated EEO-1 reporting form, which required covered employers to provide employee pay data beginning in March of 2018. These additions to the form were intended to improve EEOC investigations into pay discrimination based on gender, race, and ethnicity. Many open discussions have ensued since that announcement, stating that the EEOC is sending a strong signal that it will increase its enforcement efforts. The Office of Management and Budget, or OMB, approved the changes to the form on September 29th of 2016, and that approval was set to expire on September 30th of 2019. Why did the EEOC initiate a process to collect W-2 pay data to be included in an employer's EEO-1 report? The EEOC explained in its July 14, 2016 Paper Reduction Act 30-day notice that persistent pay gaps exist in the United States workforce, correlated with sex, race, and ethnicity. That workplace discrimination is an important contributing factor to these pay disparities, and that collecting summary pay data with the EEO-1 report would improve the EEOC's ability to effectively assess allegations of pay discrimination and focus investigations, as well as strengthen the OFCCP's ability to select appropriate federal contractors and subcontractors for review of their compliance with equal employment opportunity mandates. For purposes of self-assessment, employers would be able to use published aggregated data to compare or benchmark their own data with data from other employers in their industry or geographical areas according to the EEOC. This summary pay data collection would have also encouraged employers to voluntarily address unjustified pay disparities. On August 29th of 2017, the OMB issued a memorandum informing the EEOC that they were initiating a review and immediate stay of the effectiveness of the W-2 pay data portion of the EEO-1 report. Specifically, the immediate stay was on the portion of the report that required the reporting of aggregate W-2 pay and hours worked data, or now known as Component 2 data. Therefore, for the 2017 EEO-1 reporting cycle, employers were not required to collect the W-2 pay and hours worked data. Regardless of this change, employers were required to file their 2017 EEO-1 reports to include race, gender, and ethnicity data by job category. Employers required to file Component 2 include all private employers with 100 employees or more, and federal contractors with 50 employees or more, and has a contract, subcontract, or purchase order amounting to $50,000 or more. The 2017 EEO-1 report data collection period changed from July 1st through September 30th to submitting employment data from a payroll period in October, November, or December of 2017. The 2017 EEO-1 report deadline was also changed from September 30th of 2017 to March 31st of 2018. This was a big change for employers. These data collection and submission deadline dates are still in effect today. For 2018, the EEOC had delayed the opening of their submission portal until March 1st of 2019. As a result, the deadline to submit the 2018 EEO-1 report was extended to May 31st of 2019. On March 4th, 2019, a federal judge had issued an order lifting the OMB's stay of the EEOC's revised EEO-1 form requesting pay data broken down by gender and race, and the September 15, 2017 Federal Register notice regarding the same. The judge ordered that the previous approval of the revised EEO-1 form shall be in effect in the ruling. This raised many time-sensitive questions for employers required to file the EEO-1 report that was to be submitted by May 31st of 2019. The EEOC then announced that they were set to open their EEO-1 survey platform for submissions beginning in March 2019. On March 19th of 2019, a status conference was held. The court raised questions on how the EEOC proposed to undertake and close the collection of Component 2 pay data under the revised EEO-1 information collection that is now back in effect. The OMB authorized the EEOC on September 29th of 2016 to collect this pay data from employers twice during the 3-year approval period, which expires on September 30th of 2019. This would have required employers to collect 2017 pay data from a pay period of their choice between October 1st of 2017 through December 31st of 2017 and submitted by March 31st of 2018. And 2018 pay data from a pay period of their choice between October 1st of 2018 through December 31st of 2018 and submitted by March 31st of 2019. Judge Tanya S. Chutkin of the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia stated that federal agencies must inform employers whether they'll have to turn worker pay data over to the government by April 3, 2019. On April 3rd of 2019, the EEOC informed the District Court for the District of Columbia that the agency would be able to undertake the collection of 2018 EEO-1 Component 2 data by September 30th of 2019. The deadline extension, if it was acceptable by the judge, would allow employers additional time to comply and begin to pull pay data if they hadn't already prepared to do so. The two main sources of data needed for EEO-1 Component 2 include W-2 pay and hours worked data. On April 25th of 2019, Judge Chutkin ordered the EEOC to collect the Component 2 pay data on the EEO-1 form by September 30th of 2019. The reporting requirement applies to all employers with 100 or more employees. This ruling provided employers with an answer to whether they needed to file Component 2 by the deadline date of September 30th of 2019. Although it was still possible the federal government would appeal her decision and seek to stay her order. Employers were encouraged to familiarize themselves with the Component 2 reporting requirement and begin preparations in the event the September 30th deadline was not lifted. Judge Chutkin also ordered the EEOC to release a statement on its website by April 29th of 2019, informing employers of the judge's decision and providing guidance about their reporting requirements. Judge Chutkin had also given the EEOC the option of submitting 2017 pay data along with the 2018 pay data by the September 30th, 2019 deadline, or submitting 2019 pay data during the 2020 reporting period. The EEOC was given until May 3rd of 2019 to notify the court of its choice. Throughout all of this activity regarding Component 2 data, employers were still required to submit their Component 1 data, which included basic employee counts by race, ethnicity, and sex by May 31st of 2019. On May 3rd of 2019, the EEOC announced that the collection of 2017 and 2018 summary pay and hours worked data will be required from employers that meet the specific headcount requirements by September 30th of 2019. The EEOC was preparing to begin collecting EEO-1 Component 2 data for calendar years 2017 and 2018 in mid-July of 2019. The data that is to be collected should be from a payroll period in October, November, or December for each required year. Employers do not have to utilize the same payroll period for both 2017 and 2018. They also do not need to report this data if during either of the 2 years their headcount fell below 100 employees. The EEOC has placed the published version of this announcement in the Federal Register on Friday, May 3rd, 2019. In July of 2019, the EEOC began sending their initial notice of immediate reinstatement of revised EEO-1 pay data collection for calendar years 2017 and 2018 via the United States Postal Service, or USPS, alerting companies of the requirement to file Component 2 EEO-1 reports by September 30th of 2019. Once that communication has been sent, the next communication from the EEOC would be a letter sent later in the month of July via USPS that will contain the company's user ID. Their notifications were performed as follows. July 1st, 2019, an initial notification to employers without login via USPS. On July 2nd of 2019, an initial notification to employers without login via email. On July 15th of 2019, an initial notification and preliminary invitation to upload data with login sent via both email and USPS. On August 5th of 2019, a reminder to complete the upload with login via USPS. On August 7th of 2019, a reminder to complete upload with login via email. On August 21st of 2019, a second reminder to complete upload with login via USPS. On August 23rd of 2019, a second reminder to complete upload with login via email. And on September 3rd of 2019, to begin calls continuing through the month to prompt employers to submit their Component 2 pay data by the September 30th, 2019 deadline. A sample email notification to employers is shown here. In this notification sent in June of 2019, the EEOC is reminding EEO-1 filers to submit their Component 2 data for calendar years 2017 and 2018 by the deadline date of September 30th of 2019. They also mention the notice of appeal by the Department of Justice in May of 2019, as mentioned earlier, but this notice of appeal does not stay the district court orders or alter the EEO-1 filers' obligations to submit Component 2 data. They also supply information to employers regarding their data collection portal and help desk information. The EEOC has contracted with NORC at the University of Chicago to collect the Component 2 data for 2017 and 2018. Companies will receive their user ID from NORC via a notification letter and to the registered EEO-1 email address on record. Passwords will be set up during the initial entry into the Component 2 EEO-1 online filing system after the user ID, FEIN, and the email address are verified. The web-based portal for the submission of the Component 2 EEO-1 reports was active as of July 15th of 2019 via the Component 2 EEO-1 online filing system. Employers can find more information about the Component 2 EEO-1 compensation data collection at the link shown below. NORC takes the matter of computer and systems security very seriously. The systems developed to collect an employer's data have multiple layers of security and protection. The Component 2 EEO-1 online filing system uses the Hypertext Transfer Protocol with a secure socket layer supporting the HTTP strict transport security to protect the Component 2 EEO-1 website and access to the filing system against security attacks. As a further safeguard, the actual Component 2 EEO-1 online form where you enter the company's information does not store any of that data on the web servers where the online form resides. Rather, all Component 2 data reported through the filing system or upload process are stored inside the NORC's firewalls in storage spaces dedicated only to this data collection effort. NORC uses firewalls that protect security against external threats by using a fleet of latest security features. In addition to the built-in applications for threat protection, NORC's firewalls dynamically block port scans, deny access to entities that attempt to enter their systems from outside the United States, and provides distributed denial of service protection. Continuous monitoring of their network traffic identifies potential threats and generates automated notifications for immediate attention of the information security team. The Component 2 data collection systems, both the online form and the data upload process, are deployed in secure physical servers. Access to the Component 2 EEO-1 online filing system is secured through a multi-tiered user authentication process, which prevents unauthorized access to the data collection systems. Once inside the filing system, users only have the ability to add or update data for their own employer. Unedited raw data collected through these processes are encrypted during transmission, following the FIPS 140-2 compliance, and transfer of all data utilizes the NIST 800-53 security framework. The subsequent processing of Component 2 data takes place in a secure location on the private network within NORC, where access is granted only to individuals who are authorized to work on these files. All NORC staff who has access to Component 2 EEO-1 compensation data are annually trained to maintain data security and confidentiality and have signed non-disclosure agreements in which they pledge not to disclose, publish, divulge, release, or make known to any individual other than an authorized NORC or EEOC employee any non-public information or any sensitive information gained in connection with the performance of their job responsibilities. By implementing a comprehensive solution for Component 2 EEO-1 compensation data collection, processing, and storage in a highly secured environment, NORC ensures that an employer's company data is well protected from unauthorized access and use. The following are the online filing system features and benefits. There is no installation. The online form is totally web-based, so therefore there is no software to download or to install. The site is secure. As previously mentioned, data is transferred over the internet using encryption, assuring your privacy. Regarding employer-level access, this system has been designed to enable individual employers to file Component 2 EEO-1 data for the required 2017 and 2018 compensation data. For employers who use a professional employer organization or PEO, they should coordinate the filing of their data with their PEO. If there are any questions regarding the employer-level file upload procedures, you should contact the Component 2 EEO-1 Help Desk at 877-324-6214 or email them at the email shown below. Let's talk a little about a very important issue that may be going through your mind at this time: confidentiality. The EEOC and OFCCP will adhere to strict confidentiality requirements and protect the confidentiality and privacy of the pay and hours worked data. Title VII prohibits the EEOC and its contractors from making public any information from the EEO-1 report before the start of a Title VII lawsuit that involves the information. Any violations of the statute by the EEOC staff are subject to criminal penalties, including imprisonment. The OFCCP will protect the confidentiality of EEO-1 pay and hours work data to the maximum extent possible, consistent with the Freedom of Information Act and the Trade Secrets Act. The EEOC takes extensive measures to protect the confidentiality and integrity of EEO-1 data, including training their staff in data protection and security, maintaining a robust cybersecurity and privacy program in compliance with the Federal Information Security Modernization Act of 2014, and monitoring on an ongoing basis the EEOC's systems. Additionally, EEO-1 reports are encrypted for employers submitting the EEO-1 report using the data upload option. The EEOC assesses Freedom of Information Act requests at the time they are received. Exemptions 3 and 4 may protect an employer's Component 2 EEO-1 reports from disclosure. Exemption 3 covers information that is prohibited from disclosure by another federal law. Exemption 4 protects privileged and confidential trade secrets and commercial or financial information. However, should the OFCCP receive the Freedom of Information request for any EEO-1 data on filers not within its jurisdiction, the OFCCP will refer the request to the EEOC for a response. The confidentiality provision of Section 709E of Title VII applies to all EEO-1 data submitted by filers that are not federal contractors, and the EEOC adheres to that statutory provision when reviewing all requests for EEO-1 data. Let's begin the review of the filing of the EEO-1 Component 2 reports. Employers are required to determine each employee's pay band based on W-2 Box 1 income. Earnings reported in the IRS form Box 1 include base pay, overtime wages, shift differentials, commissions, bonuses, and fringe benefits. Employers will need to figure out how to split the W-2 pay data into the 12 pay bands required for each of the 10 EEO-1 categories. Employers believe this much data comes at a risk for human error. Who must file Component 2 pay data? Employers, including federal contractors, are required to submit Component 2 compensation data for 2017 if they have 100 or more employees during the 2017 workforce snapshot period. Employers, including federal contractors, are required to submit Component 2 compensation data for 2018 if they have 100 or more employees during the 2018 workforce snapshot period. Federal contractors with 50 to 99 employees are not required to report Component 2 compensation data. Federal contractors with 1 to 49 employees and other private employers with 1 to 99 employees are not required to file either EEO-1 Component 1 data or Component 2 data. Employers are to report pay data for employees who were employed during the workforce snapshot period, a pay period the employer chooses that falls between October 1st and December 31st. You may hear this information repeated a few times during this presentation. Employees whose compensation and hours worked data must be reported are those full and part-time employees who were on the employer's payroll during the workforce snapshot period, even if an employee resigned or was terminated before December 31st of that year. The employee should be counted if the employee was employed during the chosen workforce snapshot period. For example, if the employer chooses a payroll period in October of 2017 as its workforce snapshot period, then all the employees on the payroll during that period are counted, even employees who resigned or were terminated in December of 2017. The full and part-time employees counted for the chosen period represent the total number of employees the employer should include in their Component 2 reporting. Each employee will be reflected in one of the 12 pay or compensation bands listed for the employee's job category. Filers may report employee counts and labor hours for non-binary gender employees by job category, pay band, and racial group in the comment box on the certification page, and employers are asked to preface this data with the phrase "additional employee data." For example, additional employee data: 3 non-binary gender employees working 2,040 hours in job category 4, salary pay band 5, race, ethnicity, non-Hispanic white. We will now discuss the filing of exempt and non-exempt employees. For non-exempt employees under the Fair Labor Standards Act, or FLSA, employers must report actual hours worked. The W-2 Box 1 income and hours worked data will be reported first by tallying the number of employees and then by tallying the total number of hours these employees worked during the calendar year for each of the 12 compensation bands in each of the 10 EEO-1 job categories, and reported by sex and race or ethnicity. For FLSA exempt employees, employers have the option to either report actual hours worked by the exempt employees if the employer already maintains accurate records of this information, or report a proxy of 40 hours per week for full-time exempt employees and 20 hours per week for part-time exempt employees, multiplied by the number of weeks the employees were employed during the EEO-1 reporting year. In the case of an exempt employee that works a standard 35 hours per week, the employer has the choice of whether to report actual hours or the designated proxy hours, either 40 or 20 hours. If the employer tracks the number of hours worked for its FLSA exempt employees, the employer may report that number. Similarly, if the employer tracks hours worked for some but not all exempt employees, the employer may report the actual number of hours worked for the employees whose hours the employer tracks and use a proxy for the rest. Now that we have covered the types of employers who must file, the regulatory requirements that must be met to file, and who is considered an employee, let's review the payroll period dates for submission and the deadline date. Employers will count their employees during the Workforce Snapshot period. The Workforce Snapshot period is an employer-selected pay period in October, November, or December of the reporting year. The Workforce Snapshot period for the 2017 EEO-1 report would be an employer-selected pay period between October 1st of 2017 and December 31st of 2017. Likewise, the Workforce Snapshot period for the 2018 EEO-1 report would be an employer-selected pay period between October 1st of 2018 and December 31st of 2018. Employers are permitted to choose a different Workforce Snapshot period for reporting Component 2 data for each of these years, if they so choose. Also, the employer is not obligated to choose a pay period when it has 100 or more employees. Component 2 reporting data must be submitted to the EEOC by the filing deadline of September 30th, 2019. It is highly recommended that an employer conduct a self-audit of their pay data, preferably under attorney-client privilege, to determine whether there appears to be any pay disparities that are difficult to explain through the application of legitimate business factors. Examples could be tenure or job-related education. This would assist the employer to consider how to address any pay disparities. An employer should review their pay practices or process to explain how employees earn overtime, bonuses, commissions, etc. that are included in the W-2 Box 1 wages. They should also be able to retrieve data regarding employee benefit choices, job titles, and job descriptions to ensure that they will support pay decisions. In an effort to keep employers abreast of the Component 2 reporting data collection and available tools for filing, the EEOC released several updates in 2019 for filers. Beginning on July 8th, the EEOC announced that the Component 2 EEO-1 online filing system data collection instrument would be available for all filers on July 15th. Shortly thereafter, on July 11th, the Component 2 EEO-1 upload file layout specifications and an accompanying Excel file for 2017 and 2018 were made available in the EEOC's More Info section on their website. They also let employers know that the secure file upload function and validation process was expected to be available by mid-August of 2019. On July 23rd, the new FAQs were posted on the EEOC's website for additional guidance on multi-establishment reporting, summary compensation data, hours worked, acquisitions and mergers, spin-offs, and professional employer organizations. On July 30th, the upload file validation specifications had been added to the site on the More Info page and noted that the secure file upload function and validation process was once again expected to be available by mid-August of 2019. On August 7th, an updated version of the upload file validation specifications were added to the site on the More Info page. This new version added 2 additional validation checks. No other changes were made. They also reiterated that the secure file upload function and validation process was expected to be available by mid-August of 2019. On August 15th, the upload function for 2017 and 2018 filing became available with the upload file specifications available on the More Info page. This functionality is accessible after securely logging into the Component 2 EEO-1 online filing system via the Login to File page. Finally, on August 25th, the updated versions of materials was added to the More Info page. Version 3 of the user guide became available and includes an appendix detailing the on-screen help text available on the online form. Updated versions of the upload file specifications and upload file validation process documents provide additional user guidance and remove 1 validation check. The specific changes are described in the version history table at the end of each document. To begin your Component 2 reporting, you must first access the Component 2 login screen using the link to the website shown above. Your next step is to input your information in the Component 2 password setup screen and then click Submit. You will then be able to access the site. As mentioned earlier, employers are to place their titles into one of the 10 EEO-1 job categories as below: Executive Senior Level Officials and Managers, First Mid-Level Officials and Managers, Professionals, Technicians, Sales Workers, Administrative Support Workers, Craft Workers, Operatives, Laborers and Helpers, and Service Workers. These are the same 10 job categories employers have been using to report their Component 1 data. Employers are to use Box 1, Wages, Tips, Other Compensation, of the Internal Revenue Services Form W-2, which we will call W-2 Box 1 Income, as the measure of pay for Component 2, to identify the compensation or pay band in which to count an employee. Employers then tally the total number of employees who fall into each compensation or pay band by job category. If there is no employee in a band, employers should leave that cell blank. W-2 Box 1 Income is the measure of compensation to include total taxable wages, tips, and other compensation that you paid to your employee during the calendar year, as instructed by the IRS. The sample W-2 pay data form illustrates how the Component 2 EEO-1 online filing system is organized to collect compensation data for employers with 100 or more employees. Employers are required to report this data by September 30th of 2019. If employers have multiple establishments, this compensation data form needs to be completed for the employer in total, the headquarters, and each establishment with 50 or more employees. When an employer has establishments with fewer than 50 employees, the employer may choose to report compensation data in this detailed form or report establishments with fewer than 50 employees in a list format. The employer reports the W-2 Box 1 income for only the selected workforce snapshot period employees. They should not calculate and then report the annualized earnings for employees who did not work the full calendar year. Employers can choose to report subsequent corrected W-2 Box 1 amounts if they so choose. Employers are also permitted to choose the W-2 Box 1 wage amounts that were originally issued for either the 2017 or 2018 calendar year. On this slide, we continue to show you EEO-1 categories 2 through 10 for pay data collection purposes. Compensation data includes the number of employees and the hours worked by gender, race, ethnicity, job category, and salary. Employers may not reference gross annual earnings instead of W-2 Box 1 earnings for Component 2 data. In the Component 2 EEO-1 online filing system, blank cells in the form will be considered as zeros. After tallying the total number of employees in each compensation band by job category, employers will enter this data in the appropriate columns of the EEO-1 report based on the sex and ethnicity or race of the employees. Employers should use the W-2 Box 1 earnings for any employee who was at a U.S. location during the selected workforce snapshot period. It is important that you would report employees at the establishment where the employee resided during the selected workforce snapshot period for the specific calendar year, and not split wages by EIN for different locations that they may have resided in during different portions of that reporting year. Therefore, employers are not required to split up W-2 Box 1 wages by locations. This sample form shows you the second matrix of Component 2 to report hours worked data for EEO categories 1 through 10. Each cell on the hours worked matrix corresponds to a cell on the summary compensation data matrix. The hours worked during that year by all the employees counted in the cell on the summary compensation data matrix should be totaled and then recorded in the corresponding cell on the hours worked matrix. The compensation bands track the 12 compensation or pay bands used by the Bureau of Labor Statistics in the Occupation Employment Statistics Survey. The Component 2 instructions adopt the Fair Labor Standards Act definition of hours worked. Therefore, the hours worked data that employers will report for the Component 2 report will be based on the same hours worked that employers record for FLSA purposes. FLSA hours worked generally do not include paid leave such as sick leave, vacation leave, or paid holidays. Therefore, this approach will also be used for the 2017 and 2018 Component 2 reporting. This slide is a continuation of the hours worked matrix showing EEO-1 categories 2 through 10. The Component 2 data is reported under Section D, Employment Data. Employers will report this data through the Component 2 EEO-1 online filing system or by creating a data file and inputting their data in the appropriate fields in accordance with the data file specifications. Please note that when submitting a data file, the file layout must match the data file specifications exactly. You are looking at the file format specifications for filing your Component 2 data. The EEOC only accepts CSV file formats for data uploads. We will now concentrate on the filing responsibilities for companies that underwent an acquisition or merger during 2017 or 2018. If an acquisition was completed before the acquiring company's selected workforce snapshot period for 2017, the acquiring company would be responsible for submitting Component 2 data for 2017. Similarly, even if the acquisition occurred after the acquiring company's selected workforce snapshot period for 2017, the acquiring company would be responsible for submitting 2017 Component 2 data if they have access to the acquired company's data. In situations where a company experienced an acquisition or merger and does not have access to the Component 2 data from the acquired or former company, employers should note this in the comments box on the certification page in the Component 2 EEO-1 online filing system. The acquiring company would be responsible for 2018 Component 2 data for the selected workforce snapshot period if it otherwise meets the reporting requirements. If a merger or acquisition was completed before the new company's selected workforce snapshot period for 2017, a newly created company would be responsible for submitting Component 2 data for 2017. Similarly, even if the merger or acquisition occurred after the new company's selected workforce snapshot period for 2017, the new company would be responsible for submitting 2017 Component 2 data if they have access to the former company's data. In situations where a company experienced an acquisition or merger and does not have access to the Component 2 data from the acquired or former company, employers should note this in the comments box on the certification section in the Component 2 EEO-1 online filing system. The new company would be responsible for 2018 Component 2 data for the selected workforce snapshot period if it otherwise meets the reporting requirements. Employers do not need to combine W-2 wages and hours worked from both before and after the acquisition. You can report W-2 wages and hours worked for employees after the acquisition. However, you should be consistent with how you report wages and hours worked data. If you report W-2 Box 1 wages for both before and after the acquisition, you should likewise report hours worked data for both before and after the acquisition. But if you report W-2 Box 1 wages only for the period after the acquisition, you should also report hours worked data only for the period after the acquisition. A spin-off company is not responsible for filing 2017 Component 2 data for its employees as it was still affiliated with the former parent company in 2017. It would be the responsibility of the former parent company to file 2017 component data for those employees. The newly formed company would be responsible for 2018 Component 2 data for the selected workforce snapshot period. Let's spend a few minutes to discuss how professional employer organizations, or PEOs, handle Component 2 reporting. In the case where a PEO had a former client that terminated its relationship, the former client company is responsible for reporting Component 2 data for 2018 and for 2017 if it met the reporting requirements for the 2018 and 2017 workforce snapshot periods. A PEO is not responsible for filing Component 2 data of entities that are former clients at the time of the filing. When a PEO and a client's company contracting agreement does not include 100% of the covered client company's employees, the covered client company, not the PEO, is responsible for filing Component 2 data. A company that has an establishment with 45 employees. The company on its own would not have been subject to the EEO-1 filing requirements. As such, a PEO is not required to report Component 2 data for employees that would not be reported but for the PEO relationship. In the event that a company did not become a PEO's client during the reporting periods requested, and the client company met the threshold to file EEO-1 reports in the selected workforce snapshot period in 2017, the client is responsible for filing its 2017 Component 2 data and possibly its 2018 data. The PEO is only responsible for filing the Component 2 data for the client company if it met the reporting requirements and was a PEO client during the workforce snapshot period. How would a PEO report for one of their clients that have more than 100 employees, has multiple small establishments, and the same EIN? Can they combine them into one report? The answer is The PEO would report compensation and hours worked data for all client establishments, including those with fewer than 100 employees. The only instance in which client locations may be combined is when the establishments are located at the same address, have the same North American Industry Classification System code, and the same EIN. Now, here is some information that is good to know. The OFCCP receives EEO-1 data on federal contractors through its own legal authority under Executive Order 11246 and the implementing regulations. The OFCCP will obtain, through the Joint Reporting Committee, EEO-1 summary pay data only for those federal contractor filers over which Executive Order 11246 gives the OFCCP jurisdiction. The OFCCP will not receive EEO-1 summary pay data for companies that are not federal contractors under OFCCP's jurisdiction. So once again, why is the EEOC collecting pay data? The EEOC feels using W-2 income is important because supplemental pay, such as bonuses, overtime, and premium pay, is more and more central to compensation in the U.S., and it is included in W-2 income, but not in base pay. Pay discrimination is complex, is influenced by many factors, and is not limited to base pay. The information provided by the W-2 in combination with the existing EEO-1 infrastructure will provide valuable insights across regions, industries, and occupations, as well as gender, race, and ethnicity. Workers depend on the EEOC to advance opportunity and freedom from workplace discrimination. Although much progress has been made in the past 50 years, pay disparities continue to be a problem in the American workplace. The EEOC sees pay discrimination in the work that is performed across the country. Additionally, studies show that significant pay gaps exist in the U.S. workforce linked to sex, race, and ethnicity. Even when controlling for other factors, workplace discrimination is an important contributing factor to these pay gaps. Pay discrimination has significant consequences for America's families. Eliminating the pay gap would reduce the number of working poor, improve the financial security of many families, and strengthen the nation's economy. Robust and efficient enforcement, along with voluntary efforts by employers to examine pay for potential discriminatory disparities, are both critical to achieve greater compliance. Collecting pay data will enable the EEOC and OFCCP to more effectively tackle pay discrimination. Pay data will inform and strengthen the EEOC's and OFCCP's enforcement efforts. They have long used EEO-1 data to identify trends, inform investigations, and focus resources. The additional data is necessary to help close the pay gap. The collection of summary pay data will provide valuable insight into trends and other dimensions of the pay gap across industries and occupations. The EEOC will periodically publish reports on pay disparities by sex, race, ethnicity, industry, and occupation to provide comparative data. This will support employer efforts to self-assess compensation practices. The comparative data provided in periodic EEOC reports will help employers better evaluate their pay policies and practices and ensure that they are in compliance with relevant state and federal laws. In assessing a charge during an investigation, the EEOC enforcement staff can consider the results of several statistical analyses together with the allegations in the charge and other evidence gathered during the investigation, and, as appropriate, could compare EEO-1 pay data to other available data, for example, census statistics regarding comparable workers. In considering this data, The EEOC's enforcement staff decides how to focus the investigation and whether to request additional information from the employer. When the EEOC enforcement staff requests information from an employer, it has the opportunity to explain its practices, provide additional data, and explain any non-discriminatory reasons for its pay practices and decisions. The EEOC can utilize the information gathered from the W-2 pay data to assist in explaining pay disparities. For example, the employer has the opportunity to provide more detailed information about pay by occupation and legitimate factors that could explain any apparent pay disparities. Only after considering all of this information and data, as well as any other relevant evidence, does the EEOC make a finding as to whether discrimination was the likely cause of the pay disparities. For federal contractors, the EEO-1 reporting results can be reviewed during a compliance evaluation. The OFCCP may verify that the number of employees in the affirmative action plan under review is similar to the EEO-1 report filed. A notice of violation could be issued if the required reports have not been filed. Thomas Houston has 40 years' experience in affirmative action and equal employment opportunity. Besides data preparation and submission services for EEO-1 Component 1 and 2 reporting, we also offer the following: W-2 pay data summary reports that can assist your organization in reviewing the data you had submitted as the government originally intended. The self-audit of EEO-1 information, including W-2 pay bands, self-identification forms, EEO-1 registration for first-time filers and extension requests as applicable, report determination, where contract specifications can be reviewed to determine which reports are required, data collection and file retention. A guideline is provided to enable a more efficient data collection process. Data may be uploaded and stored using a secure site unique to your company. Multi-establishment structuring. An interactive review of data is completed to determine the most accurate reporting breakdown. Thank you for your time and interest in today's EEO-1 Component 2 reporting webcast. The sources for most of the information reviewed in this presentation today were the EEOC, OMB, OFCCP, Department of Labor, and NORC websites. You can follow Thomas Houston on the social media sites listed below. To receive further information on our EEO-1 reporting services or our other affirmative action and equal employment opportunity related services as listed on this slide, please contact our Sales and Marketing Department at 1-800-330-9000 or send a request via email to info@thomashouston.com. Thank you again.